They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there.
We don't need to go populist left or populist right. We don't need to embrace neo-Marxism or neo-fascism, these disastrous movements from the 20th century. Turns out the answer is pretty much our Bill of Rights, our story. Embrace freedom. That's the answer.
And if the LP has a purpose, it's not to put people to sleep. It's to wake them up.
We're here because we love liberty, and we're here because we hate injustice. We are here to save mankind. We are here to fight.
Join us, the Libertarian Party, in perhaps the most exciting, grandest endeavor in history, the restoration of American liberty.
Ideas spread, they can't stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello and welcome to episode 82 of Decentralized Revolution, a podcast from the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus and Mises PAC. I'm Aaron Harris and I'm your host. I have a great guest today, one who, really exemplifies a few things about what we're trying to do with the Mises Caucus. And one is like kind of being a self-starter and just not waiting around for, the LP or someone else to like tell you how to advance liberty, but just to go ahead and start doing it. That's how Michael Heiss founded the Mises Caucus. And Dennis Pratt is our guest, and he's a liberty activist up in New Hampshire. He's involved, I think he is I don't know his title, but he's kind of run the PorcFest the last couple of years, and he's active in the Free State Project. He's an ambassador for them. In fact, he was just recently named New Hampshire Liberty Activist of the Year, which given how many liberty activists are up there, including people like Jeremy Kaufman and other Mises Caucus people, that tells you a little bit about Dennis Pratt and what he's doing for liberty. And that's really what decentralization is not depending on, somebody at the top propagating the plan and having everybody else try to follow that, because, if that doesn't work, then where are you? But, the Free State Project is a great example, not quite what the Mises Caucus is after, but kind of the same approach. Like it's kind of a mix of decentralization and concentration, as Dennis talks about in this episode. So I really like people like this who are in the libertarian orbit. Got a chance to talk to Dennis just a little bit out in Reno. He's someone who I don't think he was like fully involved all the time with the LP for many years, but likes what we're doing with the Mises Caucus, and that's great. We don't need every big L libertarian to be part of the Mises Caucus. We just want to have a healthy libertarian party that is allowing these different approaches to happen, that is at the top level, supporting the decentralized message, supporting the anti-Fed, anti-central banking, anti-war message, and then letting at the local level activists on the ground do what works where they are. So we're going to learn a lot about that in my talk with Dennis Pratt. It's a pleasure to have you on, Dennis. I think we met briefly out in Reno, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What was your impressions of that? Just real quick before we get into stuff that's not in the recent past.
Well, I had gone to 1988 National Convention, and I had made a decision at that point. I was never, ever going to go to another convention. I really detest those things. And, politics is not really my strength. My strength is more community building, and that's what I do here out in the Free State. But the delegates really wanted me to go, and I was excited to go. I detested almost every moment of it, and then at the end there was like this moment. Have you ever seen Robert Redford in The Candidate?
Yeah, a long time ago. What do we do now?
He does this gigantic thing where he's like really working hard to become a senator. Right. And then he actually wins and he goes, oh my goodness, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And I was feeling that a little bit. I was just going, what did we just do? I mean, this is like this for me. It was such a release, a visceral release, because the first time I'd ever gone to a Libertarian Party meeting was 1982, and I was thinking, these are really not my folks. I've really enjoyed the energy that Mises brought in. I really didn't want to join a caucus. And it was, I was kind of forced to, really, by all the names that were being tossed around. I went in to those anti-Mises groups on Facebook, thinking that I could actually be a kind of somebody who, having been around for a long time, I could talk to people and explain what's going on here from a historical perspective. And almost right from the get-go, I was being called a Trumpster. Yeah. I'm coming from the social democratic left. I mean, come on. What do you mean? I never voted for a Republican until I moved to the free state, where Republican means like more libertarian than those guys. The Liberty Republican here is not something that these guys understand at all. And to pedophile and racist and not, I'll go, and it was about a month and a half of my sincere efforts trying to kind of bridge the gap that I saw. I thought of it as an unnecessary gap. And finally I just said, I'm sorry, guys, you've convinced me. I can no longer stand on the sidelines. And I wrote $1,000 check to the Mises caucus. I said, all right, I'm in.
All right. Well, we appreciate that. And I think it's interesting that throughout the last couple of years, like, we consciously as a board, decided that, selective engagement on the people who, the haters, for lack of a better term. And we focused on our plan and reaching out to people and supporting local candidates and doing the stuff we say we're going to do, counting on the fact that the normal people who are non-aligned, unaffiliated, who are, just want to be libertarian and have an effective party, we counted on the fact that, and it sounds like you're a prime example of that, who, didn't want to join a caucus, got much more going on in New Hampshire. We were counting on people like you to see what was going on. And thankfully, most of them did. And I hope we can win back some of the people, but I think, at a certain point, what you said is you kind of come to a realization with some people that, oh, you're just not interested in dealing with facts. Like, these are the people who nominated and pushed Republicans since 2008. But now, because we, hate Republicans, we're really Republicans, or so. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So let's get into what you're doing in New Hampshire. I asked a couple people recently, hey, who should I have on the show? And your name came up a couple of times. And, I've been a libertarian since like the mid 90s. So I've been aware of what's going on in New Hampshire, and intrigued by it. And I know it's a slow process, but there's all kinds of news we hear out of New Hampshire. So when did you become a libertarian and get into the New Hampshire libertarian lane?
Yeah, well, I became a libertarian in 81. Like I mentioned, I was a democratic socialist before that. And I didn't really come in in a traditional fashion. I came in after about a 9-month period of debate and thought and discussion with this kind of arch conservative. And he gave up his foreign interventionism. He gave up his, control over people's bodies. And I had to understand and give up my control over economic things. And we finally got to this point where we weren't arguing anymore. I said, is that it? Do we really have something? We didn't have a name for this. We didn't know what it was. About 6 months later, on a Chicago bus with the slush going back and forth, I saw a Libertarian Party leaflet on the bottom. I was reading it. I go, I pick it up as dripping wet. I jump out of the bus and call it my friend. I know what we are. There's a word for what we are. We're libertarians.
That's great.
And I thought I thought
Back,
this is like
back
the
before
most-
the internet, that's how you found out about it, right? Like in a Walter Williams column, or in a you know, like maybe maybe some book refers to something Mises wrote, or a lot of people, like a lot of my generation, being Gen X, came to it through Ayn Rand, whereas a lot of the younger people through Ron Paul. But guys like us, we didn't have Dave Smith tune into, or Ron Paul YouTube videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that it was so beautiful. I thought this thing was so beautiful. It got us, especially the people whom I associated with, it got us what all of our nominal goals were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going, this is fantastic. And yet it was peaceful. It was honoring of each other. It was respectful of the diversity of humanity. And I was going, this is one of the most beautiful. I just have to explain it to my friends.
Yep.
So, I talk. I give a number of 101 talks at PorcFest, and I talk about how there's generally 4 categories of libertarians. Mm-hmm. There's the despair libertarian. They've either given up, or they've just gone ahead and rejected. They go, oh, that's so stupid. They just won't think about it. There's the acceptance that we'll never make an inroad. We'll never make an inroad. And so those are the people who they're the preppers, or they become kind of they say we'll innovate and we'll do parallel institutions, or they become kind of the regime. We'll beg our masters for a little bit more freedom. And then there's there's people who really believe that we can convert our way through. We can convert to libertarianism by convincing everybody. And they start off with a Thanksgiving dinner table. Of course, that fails miserably, and it's just like year after year of misery. But then they say, oh well, I can convert this group or that group. And I've gone through all those stages in my 40 years at this. There is this 4th category, which is the Free State Project is probably the best example of. It's certainly the most successful, and I think it's the most successful all the way through. But that is the concentration strategy.
Yep.
That instead of trying to convert everybody, instead of giving up on your freedom, what if we just pull together all the people who really, really, really want it? We concentrate in a small area like the Mormons do, or the Jews do, or the Amish do. And we just say, okay, God bless the rest of the world. I wish that they could see this. We're not going to be able to convince most of them, but maybe by our actions shall we be known.
Yep.
And we together actually build a freed society. And we experience it. We get to enjoy it first, which is what I mean. Really, we who see it, we should be enjoying it first, as opposed to sacrificing our lives to convert the inconvertible.
Yeah.
But also we get to model it, and we get to demonstrate it, and we get to show it, and we get to change that Overton window. And people, we see it time after time, and people go, "Well, you see what New Hampshire's doing?"
Yeah.
And that's because, and that the only reason, it's so funny because I talk to so many libertarians, and they're so, well, we want to do what you're doing. I say, you don't understand. If you think that you can do what we're doing with the few people as dispersed, as scattered, as despised as you are in the authoritarian 49, you do not understand our strategy. Our strategy is to pull people in, and we actually have this like resounding group that is innovating all over. I mean, our big detractors here in the Free State, they're always, the Free State Project, they're doing this. And they think of us as this top-down organization. And, you do so much around decentralization. We are the most decentralized group possible. We have people here who just come and they're all of a sudden they're working on crypto, or they come and they're working on farming, or they come and they're working on agorism, or they come and they're working on schooling and homeschooling, or they come and they're working on politics. And and the politics is we've done enormous stuff with the Liberty Republicans, but also on the libertarian side. Or, they come like myself and they're building community. I actually am building out a necklace of community clubhouse throughout the Free State. At some point, my hope is that every liberty lover will be within 30 minutes of a community clubhouse.
I want to get into that because I did get, you sent me a list of, hey, I said I want to talk about decentralization. And so we have kind of a little bullet point thing. And you're right. The Free State sort of approach is a lot like, it's one of the things we kind of advocate with the Mises Caucus, is kind of based on the Hans Hermann Hoppe. He wants Europe to be 10,000 Liechtensteins, right? And Liechtenstein number 1 may be Catholic and conservative, and Liechtenstein number 973 might be cosmopolitan and sexually liberated and atheistic, and that's fine, and everything in between. And to me, that is great, because I love California. I have a family out there. I love to go to Dodger Stadium, but I don't want to live there. I don't want to have, I would like to live there if they had a non-kooky government and all that, but I can't. And so I don't want to, I want to be like, third cousins with California and go visit when I want to, and they can come to Tennessee. And, so that's what we're trying to build here. And so, and I don't necessarily want to get into the, I know they considered a few different options other than New Hampshire, and that's been rehashed a lot. But somebody should make a documentary about all that. But anyway, talk about the Free State macro versus micro.
Well, on the macro, I mean, you can think of, I consider the Free State Project being a concentration strategy, right? Yeah. So in a way, we're doing kind of the opposite of decentralizing. We're concentrating enough people. But within the Free State Project, we have so many little centers and little groups. I just talked about the general categories of things. And I work primarily in the community building. But we have, just like you said, we have a community clubhouse where they only accept professional families, young families, and that's really what they focus on. And they want none of the libertines, none of that. We have another clubhouse that is extremely libertine. So, you could have all these different flavors. I think eventually we're going to have a very stoical one that's going to be more open. The ones I kind of work on are more intro, like our big one here is called the Shell. That's the one I basically started and designed. I brought together something like 30 people, some key people in the beginning, and it's been off and running. It's our most open, most welcoming. You come to the Shell, and people are just going to embrace you with open arms. So we don't, we're kind of like that base community center, but we have debates there, we have discussions, we have movie nights, we have comedy nights, open comedy nights. We do the Soho Forum. We are one of the satellites for the Soho Forum, and then we have our own debate series that we do there. We have, during the lockdown, we had 80, 90 people in the Shell, all crammed in, listening to Robbie the Fire and all these other New York comedians who they couldn't work in New York. Yep. So they were coming up. And our thing, I would tell them, I said, look, I just want to inform you, everyone in the audience is going to be armed, and everyone's going to be pretty much an ANCAP. So do not feel as though you're constrained at all. Yeah. And don't give us, pro-Trump jokes. This is a libertarian audience. This is where you get to fly your libertarian flag. Yeah. And so it was, it's for me, I can't tell you, I've lived in so many authoritarian states and authoritarian cities and argued over and over about libertarianism and hope for, and to actually be in a place where we have this level of freedom. I mean, I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine what it was like. I actually have a physical reaction right here in my chest of release, of being able to breathe. And I know other people who feel that same way. It's just like, it's I would assume that it's kind of like people, gays who were in the closet in the 50s, and they finally, their sexual revolution, and they're finally able to kind of come out, and like, oh my God, thank God. We're probably more despised and more put down than those guys were. And I think
How insensitive of you to say that, to equate your experience with someone else's. Let's back up just a sec, because I do want to talk about how the interactions with the different people and factions in New Hampshire that are not libertarian, but explain a little bit exactly what the community clubhouses are. Are they spaces that are just dedicated to that? Who owns them? How do they get started? Just run that down.
Yeah, and that is done fairly decentralized. I mean, we have a general model just that we use that came from some of the older community clubhouses, but each one has a different vibe and a different. We were talking just last night about creating another one that's going to be a little bit closer to Nashua. And maybe between Nashua and Exeter down in the southern part of the state. So for you, it's to kind of hear. But one of the women who will be starting that, she loves doing cigars and whiskey. So we're going, okay, so we need a cigar and whiskey night. So, whereas the Shell, we do this in a mill house, an old mill, and it's all artists all around us. So we have like maybe 100 or 150 different rooms and stuff. But there's chemicals, and so we can't actually smoke on the premises. So each one is kind of a reflection of the people who form it, right? Which is really what you want for society. So it's not a top-down structure. We don't know what each one will be until it actually comes, and we see who comes in, and we see who puts in the energy to actually create it. I think the biggest problem was that I talked a little bit about the conservative one, and it's actually right across I don't know if you can see the river.
Yeah.
I moved here because I was right across the river from it.
Okay.
And I didn't realize, because everyone said, oh yeah, there's a community clubhouse on the seacoast. I goes, oh great. Well, that's what I want to do. And it was really hard for me to get in because I'm an old fart. Our kids, we're empty nesters. Now, I did do a lot of work in homeschooling and schooling in general and stuff like that. So that kind of got me in. And plus, I'm I chipped in and helped out, and they were building out, and so they finally let me in. The first thing I did was, okay, let's have like this big party and invite all these people. And they're going, whoa, whom are you going to invite here? I don't know. We're kind of particular about whom we let it. And so what was happening was all these people would move to the Free State, and they'd hear about this clubhouse. They'd move to the clubhouse, and then they'd find out they weren't really welcomed in the clubhouse. Right. And it was really bad because they were thinking there's something wrong with me. And it wasn't. Right. It wasn't. It was just that they didn't fit with that particular group. So the answer is that we need a lot of different groups. Yeah. That's the answer.
So it's basically people just take it upon themselves to buy a building and do this, and it's like a private club, right?
Yeah, it's a private club. Most of these are rented. Okay, we don't buy things. Especially given how we don't know what the size will be and right. activities and things really change quite a bit. The Shell I started, it was, our egg was about $2,000 a month. So if we could get membership at $2,000, we had it. I got that in 3 days or 4 days in terms of people jumping in and wanting to do it. And I was thinking, oh, well, we'll move. Within 3 months, we are going to move. And people are going, hey, this is fantastic. Why would we move? I'm the entrepreneur, and I'm okay with change. And I have to remember that people are like more like, good enough.
Yeah.
So what I do now is I find other people who want to create something, and I support them. I'm really good at kind of breaking inertia.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about how the Free Staters and Libertarians relate to everyday people there in New Hampshire, especially kind of in the context of the debate between, I think, one of our, let's say, our top level, more notable speakers at the convention this year was trying to make a point, sort of an anti-decentralization or an anti-radical point of, hey, we don't want to tick off the average American voter. We have to appeal to these people. Basically the implicit message is, let's play the same game that the Republicans and Democrats do. If we play it the right way, they'll let us on the debate stage. They'll take us seriously and have us on Meet the Depressed on Sunday mornings and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden people will wake up and we'll convince them, right? Well, I mean, obviously the Mises strategy, the Free State strategy is like, your strategy is even, farther away from ours of, hey, let's just find our own people who are already like that. That's right. My thing is, let's talk to the people. If there's 100 million voters, I'm not going after the 30 million that are farthest away from us, the hardcore right wingers, the hardcore left wingers. I'm going after the homeschoolers and the gun people who like Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry and guys like that. There's a lot of people in that space that are kind of close to us, and talking to them, like if you have a milquetoast message, those people are just going to be like, who knows? But we want.
Why should I listen to you?
Yeah, we want to wake some of those people up. So when you are being libertarian, you're going to wake some people up. Some people are going to stay asleep, and some people are going to hate you. So what's that? How does that play out in New Hampshire?
So first of all, the strategy that we do in the Free State, I don't know is a strategy that you would want to replicate in the authoritarian 49. Okay, because we just have a different situation here. We have a flood of libertarians coming in here, and they're just creating liberty all over the place. And so we have a lot more liberty. We have a lot more liberty to talk about liberty. And I understand the fear of the, I call them the PC-DC libertarians, the politically correct and DC Beltway kind of combination.
It's a good term. It's a good term.
They were so scared of pissing off their masters, because they're really supplicants. They're this kind of lost minority that will never get power, and they're supplicants, and they're forever, begging their masters for a little bit of more freedom. We have a different strategy. It's like kind of going, we're taking the power. We've taken a lot of power, and we're just doing it by numbers. So it's hard for me to tell you what we're doing here in the Free State Project, and my fear is that you'll think, oh, well, I could do this in, New York State.
Well,
and I'm
a little less interested in like finding out exactly, how you do it. I guess I just want to hear a little bit of how, when people do recognize that, let's concentrate on the people who know what libertarians are and hate libertarians. I'm just interested in this for some reason. Like I saw somebody, it was on Twitter or something, somebody posted, I think it was really recently, that, I think somebody posted on Twitter like a screen cap from Reddit of this guy like in the New Hampshire board was saying, hey, we need to get together and organize against these free staters. Like what type of things are happening that provoke that sort of reaction? Do you have people like calling the cops on your clubhouses? Like what? I'm just interested in the type of pushback you get from people who really don't like liberty as we understand liberty.
Well, I think the first thing to know is that the base population of New Hampshire has always been one of the more free. We beat Massachusetts in the Revolution. The first battles actually took place in New Hampshire. Massachusetts has the better historians, so they're the ones who get all the notoriety. Some of our best liberty free staters are native free staters, because they're going, holy cow, look at the reinforcements coming in, and they are so excited. And they, I'm just thinking and seeing the faces of these people. It's funny because they're always a little bit hesitant to call themselves free staters or porcupines. They go, well, I kind of grew up here. I go, no, you're whom we hope for. And of course they're so excited because they get all the benefits without having to do the migration part, which that's a pain in the ass. But of course we still have progressives here. We have lots of progressives, part of our mission is actually to help the progressives find places that they're going to be happier with. We are surrounded by progressive states. We and they're all different types of authoritarianism. So New Hampshire is the number one freest state. At 3-hour drive, you could be in the number one most authoritarian state. You can go to New York State. It's 3 hours away. Why stay here and fight this incoming tide of libertarian? And where else are we going to go? The progressive authoritarians, they have Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Maine. They have Canada. My goodness, you really want to suffer? Go to Canada. And they have so many choices right here. And then look at California. California's a fantastic place for them. So part of our job is to say, look, I understand you always thought that you could turn this into a mini Massachusetts or a mini New York or a mini California. And you think that that's really where you're going. Libertarians need and deserve a place to exist. And that's here. So we're actually seeing that. We're actually seeing, especially the progressive authoritarians leave and kind of make room for the libertarians who are coming in. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, every time that they go green all over the place, that's money in our bank account, because we advertise that. We advertise that to the libertarians and say, see, look at what this strategy is doing here, guys. Yeah. And we advertise it to the progressives, say, look, an hour and you're in Vermont, half an hour you're in Massachusetts. Why are you here bitching and thinking that you're going to turn a whole bunch of libertarians into a whole bunch of progressive authoritarians? Because I can tell you that ain't going to happen. We have no place else to go. There's no place that's freer. There's no place that is moving faster to freedom. And so you're thinking, of course, money's coming in to try to stop us and this and that. But their strategy is so off because they think of us as a top-down organization. And they talk about the Free State Project as though it's a thing. We have 2 employees who basically do a lot of, kind of helping new movers and that type of stuff. Not like this grandiose stuff. Everything else is totally decentralized, Aaron. Everything else is totally decentralized. So how do you stop that move? You know how the socialists did their long march through American institutions and took them over?
Well,
that's what we're doing. We're just like doing that in a microcosm.
Yeah, it's like how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time, right? It was a long march because they all got jobs and they bided their times. They wrote their articles and got tenure, and here we are.
But they attacked all the different places, and we have so many people doing all these different things. And so, how do you stop it? How do you stop it? Now, of course, they like I said, that millions of dollars are coming in. We're all self-financed. The people who come here, they volunteer their time. They're doing all different types of things with different types of groups, and they're volunteering their money, but all for that dream of freedom. The unions, they're taking money from the authoritarian 49. You guys can thank us very much for that, by the way. But they're flooding it into here. But they don't have the manpower. They don't have the dedication. We have people who have traveled halfway around the world to escape tyranny and to become free. And you know what happens when one of these people starts thinking, we start talking, well, maybe we'll give in on this point or stuff like that. They're like, no, we are not doing that. I did not go halfway around the world in order for you to give up on this.
Yeah. So it sounds like even if the people who hate you guys, like, there's really nothing to, like, if the state, like, what could there be, state lawmakers come after you, sheriffs, like stuff like that, because there's not anything to go after, right? It's like,
right. Well, I mean, we're running for sheriffs, and we're running for, our Liberty Republicans are just a fantastic group. It's so funny because the PCDCs were complaining. Oh, do you know New Hampshire, they vote for Republicans? And I'm going, first of all, our Republicans are more libertarian than you guys are.
Than your Republicans.
But they're libertarians. I was talking to a guy about a month ago at one of the inns we run here, and he related how when he first got here, he's really big political, and he ran as the Libertarian Party candidate, and he got, I don't know, it was some low number in the low double digits number of votes. The next election, he ran as a Republican. He won. He's won the next 5 things. He's now the number 3 most powerful man in the House.
Wow. Okay. Is this Eric Brakey or
no?
Who is?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
And the House Majority Whip is a free stater. So because we have all these really good political people, they're doing the political stuff. But then we have all these other parallel institutions that we're building up. So it really is. I mean, I understand the frustration the progressive authoritarians are having, because I similarly had it, right? I had it when I lived in Chicago or New York or New Jersey or Boston. I had it. I was going, why can't we have freedom? And it's just like impossible. You just like see this wave of authoritarianism always cranking down. To them, they're panicked because like this freedom is releasing these bounds on people. They're going, how can we control other people now? And I'm going, you can control them right over, just cross the border, right there. I can point in any direction, and you will be happier there.
Yeah. So it sounds like the decentralization, I think, is a good way to build culture, even within a movement, because that way, like, if you don't like what this group is doing, you go, you do your own thing, and you work together on the things that you get along on. And I don't think anything, there's probably not a better example of that decentralized, positive liberty culture than PorcFest. So, like, talk about that.
Yeah. PorcFest is we're coming up on the 20th instantiation of PorcFest, and it's actually the PorcFest started as a party to try to convince people who were talking about this free state project to select New Hampshire. So it's actually one of the main reasons why we're here in New Hampshire. Okay. We hold it up in the White Mountains. It's this retreat. It's basically a week-long immersion into a freedom village. The way that it's currently organized, and I know the organizer really well. that's I. It was totally decentralized, totally decentralized. So what we have is, instead of like a convention where, there's these people who will decide who the speakers are and all this type of stuff, we basically give tools to people. One of them being the Mises Caucus, for example. They came in really strong 2 years ago, and there's a great Dan Smuts video of Mises Caucus takes PorcFest. And I gotta tell you, I mean, it was fantastic because they came in, they created like this little hub of activity with a tent and all these talks and speakers, and it was just like this real hotbed. It became like that actually became one of the hottest places at PorcFest. But that's what we have. We have all these different groups, and we have Christian libertarians coming in, and they create their own hub, and women libertarians, and they create their hub. And we have people from different states. This year we had Montana, Wisconsin, and Vermont come in, and they created their hubs. And they showed Montana, they actually had goats. They erected this gigantic teepee and had goats.
They brought them all the way from what, Montana?
I don't know where they had them. I was trying to, because we have all these free staters who are starting up farms, right? That's a whole big group of people doing farming and food and provisioning and that type of stuff. And they were eyeing those goats. They were going, hey, you really want to take them back to Montana?
Yeah, how'd you like to
I
be
think
on
they
that
sold
flight,
them.
right? Did they let the goats on as comfort animals or whatever? But
I don't know. I talked to the guy, and I know that he sold some of the young ones, but there was a mama who I guess was a good breeder or something. They're taking him back, and I don't know. I grew up in New York City. What do I know about goats?
Right. So since it's decentralized and a bunch of libertarians, then people must be getting in fights and overdosing on drugs and cholera outbreaks and all kinds of stuff like that happening, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the more peaceful experiences you'll experience, because everyone's there. There's a gigantic diversity of humanity. And there are people who really believe in drugs. I was talking to these people who they're like really into I guess psilocybin as kind of a spiritual release and that type of stuff. But there are, we have the most stoical people also, right? So, I mean, libertarianism is absolutely fantastic for a really well-disciplined person too.
Yeah.
And like I said, one of my favorite places is the Christian hub, just because they have the most fascinating talks and debates and discussions. But what unites us all isn't that we're all Christian or Muslim, or we had an atheist hub this year, or atheist, or it's not that all these like superficial ways of being. It's that we each just know that every single person there owns their own body, and we respect that, and we allow them to make their own decisions. And if we don't like it, we go to our own hub, or we go over there, And so, there are people who hate the Mises Caucus who are there. God love them. They don't attend the Mises stuff.
Yeah.
What's so hard about that? It's easy.
Yep.
I don't understand why libertarianism is considered such a difficult thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it's just people who, I mean, sometimes I think there's a gene or something that people who are just willing to not, fully accept the programming and like, it really does. That's one thing I do love about libertarianism is, even if someone is very different from me culturally or, whatever, like, to have something in common with someone who loves liberty and who's willing to stand up for it and live it in a world that hates it, like that's really special. And that's why I really have a lot of hope that, in the LP and in the wider liberty movement, that I think things are going to just get better and better if we maintain that positive culture, promote that positive culture, and work together on things we work together on, and live and let live on the other. I think it's really going to thrive, because I really think that, over the last 2 years, especially, more and more people are just, I think, they're willing to listen. They know something is wrong. They see we're sending $40 billion to Ukraine, but I'm paying $5 a gallon for gas. Like, people are wanting a alternative, and if we show them that and live that out, some of those people are gonna get it and join us.
Yeah, you did say that there may be a genetic component here. There's some major psychological blocks. I actually did a little. I mentioned I do some 101s. I talked about why is it so hard to communicate about libertarianism, and my argument is not why don't we have more libertarians, is how do we have any libertarians at all, given all the blocks and the problems and the difficulties to coming to this. I mean, the people who are currently libertarians, are a very unique brand of person, and they may be different in that they're, some are Christians and some are atheists, or some are Muslims, or some are doing drugs, and some are just, extremely disciplined and, very, very focused. You have that range, but there are characteristics inside that are, very unique and very interesting. And I think we need to save that. I think that those people are very important. For me, what I'm getting most concerned about, and as a matter of fact, I'm starting an ambassador program for people who love the Free State Project. They want to move to the Free State Project, but they can't yet make the decision for a whole bunch of reasons. I got divorced and my kids are here, or there are excuses. A lot of Free Staters are kind of absolutist, and they're kind of like, oh, if you're not coming to the Free State, you're not really ready to fight for liberty. I am concerned about the people whom I've seen who love the idea of liberty, and then they fall into despair, and they give up the light, or they just kind of crumble into themselves. And it's those people whom I want to kind of reach out to and energize, create like little mini groups, mini communities all around the United States. And and the people who are ready to come, please come to the Free State Project. You're going to be so much more relieved, but at least you have a lifeline there. You don't feel so totally alone. So anyway,
we'll talk about how people, if they would want to get a taste of it, and come visit between now and I want to talk about next year's PorcFest in a second, but let's say over the winter they have a little time, which I don't know, winter in New Hampshire, we won't go there, but if somebody does want to come by before PorcFest, what's the best? Where should they go online? Who should they come see? What?
Well, of course, you should see me. I do all these cool things. But yeah, so New Hampshire is it's a beautiful state. It's so varied. We have seacoast and mountains and fields, and it's absolutely fantastic. And the place, what people really think of us about is our fall season, when the leaves change and all the beauty. I mean, I remember the first time that I came up here. I grew up in Manhattan, and I had never seen colors like that except on advertising billboards. And I was like looking out the window going, oh, that's a real color.
Yeah.
And so it is a fantastic thing. We've talked about doing some sort of big event up here during that season, but of course it's the big heavy tourist season, and we just never, we're coming out of PorcFest, and I fixed that this year. So we actually have this big weekend, September 29th through October 2nd. September 29th, so that's Thursday, come up Thursday, October 2nd. At the center of it is a guided bus tour. Porcupines are talking about guns and agorism and politics and schooling and all the things you need to know, all the different regions and the community clubhouses. But we're also taking you along the Kangamangas Highway as the leaves are changing, and then up into the White Mountains as the leaves are changing. Now around that, we also have each day there's like a big event, like there's a boat trip on Lake Winnipesaukee and stuff like that.
Okay.
But we're doing all these meetups with different people, different groups that you can actually meet. So if you're interested in the Free State Project, this is a great way of getting to meet a lot of different Free Staters in a lot of different regions and getting a sense of the regions that we call North Country region, which is basically the White Mountains up. The Pemi Valley region, and then the lakes region where we have like Lake Winnipesaukee and all those lakes. Yeah. So it's an absolutely fantastic thing. The bus trip, you have to get the hotels. You have to get the hotels and the bus. Both of these going to sell out. So if you go to what is it? Tiny URL. I actually created one. tinyurl.com. Free State Foliage. Free State Foliage. And if you don't know how to spell foliage, look it up. Spell it right.
Yeah, it'll be on decentralizedrevolution.com/82/82. Is the dates for PorcFest next year? I've never made it up, and people are always disappointed that I haven't made it, and so I might try to make it next year. If there's something that maybe
put in your vacation time, Aaron, you will not regret it. You will not regret it. If you think this is some sort of boring libertarian convention.
Oh, I don't think it is.
Your head will spin.
It's just I have an aversion to the outdoors and camping, but I may be able to.
You don't have to camp.
I'll figure something out.
Get a hotel room. I have to stay on there because I'm the organizer. But there's hotels right around, especially if you get them now. Grab a hotel room. There's one that you can actually walk from the hotel to the campground. And it's like a kind of a mini resort. It's got like its own pool, and that's the place I stay because
that sounds like where
I need some calm.
I'll talk to you. I'll get you to shoot me that info so I can go ahead and get my room now. And if my boss, meaning the person I'm married to, will let me, maybe we'll both come up. But when is it? Oh,
she should definitely come up. She should definitely come up.
When is it?
Oh, so that is the Monday the 19th. Through Sunday the 25th
of July
and of June.
June.
Yeah, so it's like the first week of summer.
Okay.
And it's up in the White Mountains. It's absolutely fantastic. And I can't tell you what your experience is going to be there because we're going to have 3,000 liberty lovers. We're going to have over 100 different hubs, and we're going to have over 1,000 events. So what you do there, is up to you.
Yeah.
And you can actually create things. You're with the Mises. Mises came in with two campsites this year, so they had actually 2 hubs, and they actually created one that was more like kind of a podcast central. They had all these podcasts and talks and movies, and then they have kind of more of a party. And I would like to see more Mises people giving talks there about what's going on in your state, and so actually do like some sharing of information. We have that with the secessionists. We have that with the Freedom Cell people and with various other groups. I would like to see Mises. Of course, our New Hampshire Mises people, awesome, absolutely fantastic. But I'd like to see the other Mises people come in and say, "Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what's so cool about Tennessee."
Well, hopefully next year, the fact that most of us will not have spent a couple $1,000s going out to Reno, we'll have the money to come up there next year. So I got to let you go. But I could talk to you for a long time. And I'll have you on again. Maybe, I don't know, around the fall foliage time or at the very least in advance of next year's.
I do want to say
go ahead.
Your listeners, Mises Podcast coupon code, Mises Podcast, one word, Mises Podcast. You get $10 off. It's the early porcupine rate of I think it's $75. So you get $10 off of that. That price is going up to 150, folks, and we will be sold out. This will be my 3rd year being head organizer. The first year was the first time we sold it out. I doubled the size. This is going to be sold out as well. So
great.
So get your tickets. You're coming.
Decentralizedrevolution.com/82. Dennis Pratt, thanks very much. And there you have it. I'd like to thank Dennis Pratt for his time and wisdom and all of his hard work up in New Hampshire. It was a pleasure meeting him out in Reno. You can find links to some of the things we talked about over at decentralizedrevolution.com/82. That's /82. Thanks to Dave vs. Goliath for all the music you hear on Decentralized Revolution. And thanks to everyone who subscribes to our email list and who gives to Mises PAC at takehumanaction.com. And of course, everyone who shares, rates, reviews, and subscribes to